Hey guys, Peter, g'day. Canberra Dog Parts, hello. Um, just see if you woke up to that. Um, yeah, we have audio check, someone. You're a funny lot. Last week was a terrible week here. Absolutely. As far as live stream went, I had a screen brightness problem, which I couldn't work out what was wrong, and I wasn't seeing. It was a bit difficult, and I fixed that, and had bad internet too. And I think we've got that sorted as well, hopefully. But here we are. So I've had 2 days off, which is a bit slack, to be honest. It's terrible. But I needed some mental health time. I needed to get my head into gear, and I needed to recover from some crappiness, actually some sickness that I needed space to get back to up to speed. I'm feeling a lot better, and I'll be back at work tomorrow. In the meantime, I've done a lot of CAD work and a lot of 3D printing, I guess. Well, not much, actually. I've done a lot of sleeping, if I've done a lot of anything. But what have we done? Been working on a few things. I've just 3D printed the halves for the pattern for this, which is part of 1919, which is a steam locomotive over in the shed. This is a tap, which is completely worn out. Let's see. Have a look. I don't know if you can see that. Probably can. What have we got? So we can line this up so you can actually see it. Yeah, see that hole doesn't really line up anymore. And if I machine it to fit properly, that won't line up at all. It should be sort of there somewhere. So that's how much worn out it is. This still needs a machine through here. Probably what's going to happen is I'm going to keep this bit and make a new one of these. I've done the patterns for this, but just because it might be somewhat useful to have one of these in the future for an engine or something, which honestly, it's probably something that's going to be a useful thing. I've drawn it up and I've 3D printed the two halves for this piece, and I'll make a match board for them too at some point. So that's one job we've done. I've done a little bit of work on the little lathe for the donation box project in actual real life rather than on CAD. I've done some work on the bolt and beam engine, which is a big project which may or may not ever happen, to be honest. So we've got a few jobs to do. That's where we're at. Let's have a look at it. I'll minimize this and we'll have a look at a few things and we'll get some just things done here. So this is the bolt and beam engine. It's starting to come together. We'll drag this around. It's a lump of a thing. Even as a CAD model really involved, valve gear and everything's quite simple. It's got some interesting things, and me and a friend spent quite a bit of time messing around. Let's have a look at this without making you too seasick. Come on, do the thing. There we go. This is Watt's straight line movement mechanism, or straight line motion. It's not perfect. I've not read anything online about this engine having drawing errors here. And I haven't found any drawing errors as such, which is a bit of a miracle. But something doesn't quite work with this Watt straight line movement. Straight line motion. Hey, Mark. It's got 4 equal links here. 1, 2, 2 on the other side. If we have a look, 2 there, 2 there. With basically a crosshead between them, which is piston rod. And then these two are linked together with a link that's the same length as the 2 pin distance between this pin and this pin. So it's like that. And then this has got an anchor link which links down. If we cover over, you can sort of see it there. Links down over to this piece here, which is the entablature. I haven't as yet put in a spacer bar here for this. I'm still messing around with it, hoping to find sort of somewhere that it actually works. I have moved this out a little bit here, this distance here. Now, if someone has any idea, I've had quite a few comments. I can't blow this stupid little cursor up on a restream. On my screen, it's quite big. On Restream, I can't seem to do that. So I'm not sure why that is. If anyone wants to play with you in particular, Mark, if you've got time and you want to play with another platform that you might use, that we could use, that will blow the cursor up, would be very useful because you can have trouble following that. I understand that. So anyway, what straight line motion is a bit of a terror. There's a lot of parts in this, and this is just the mates. But if we animate this one, if we click there and go animate, and then instead of reciprocate, we put loop, so it runs continuously, and play that. That animates the crankshaft, and everything else should work in adjacent to it or in conjunction with it. Maybe, eventually, if we haven't put it to sleep completely. It's not going to do this to me, is it? It's not even a complicated model. I'm just going to reload that. I have to do something about this. Anyway, let's have a look here. See what it does. Maybe the live streaming is too much for it. There we go, though. So this is what straight line engine. If you look closely, this doesn't actually work as well as it should here. If I put my mouse just here, my mouse disappears off the screen, and I don't know how to fix that. As we were saying, but anyway, that's what straight line motion there, and we've got it working somewhere near, but it's not exact. Not real happy with the model, but I think probably the problem we're having is physics of gravity. And what's happening is that this isn't hanging as straight as it could, and if you put it, it's over defined if you put this in here, because it's going to rely a little bit on slotted holes to find the center exactly of the cylinder or the column on the base. Anyway, that's something. We've got that sort of sorted. Have a look. We've got the valve gear. Here, this has got a, if you have a look, it's got a lift out link for starting. That's how that works. Basically, you lift it out and push this forward so that this sits on the rod. Then when it starts, it drops in. It gives you steam inlet to start the flywheel because it's a fairly big engine. Scale model, I think, just from reading up about it, is about 1/8 size. Hey, James, which isn't huge. 1/8 of, it's a 14-inch flywheel, so that's 400 millimeters. So that's an 8-foot flywheel. It's not a big engine. You can see by the size of the starting lever that it's not huge. But fairly nice little engine. Anyway, I've been messing with that just to while away some time and to relax a bit. I'd very much like to get the valve gear on it and some of the other bits and just make sure everything works. And maybe, I don't know, put it away for a while and hope I've got it out of my system before I go and build one. Anyway. We talked about this valve. I've been messing with that, and there it is. That's basically the pattern in two halves, part 1 and part 2 here. Turn off part 1. It's got 2 pins for two 2.5mm steel dowels to line them up. So I just drill 2 oversized holes in the board and put the pins through so they all line up nice, and then screw it down in the middle with a bit of super glue. Each side Nikkei to undercoat, and fill this hole up nicely flat. And from there, we can put a sprue on the back or a gate on the back, I guess, to pour the metal into. So that's a project. That's this piece here. So that's actually the gauge glass drain valve for 1919. It's a locomotive over in the shed. So that's the job. What else? I've got this launch guard piece here that I've been working on. I've actually done some work on this and made it fit, and I've screwed I left it downstairs, but I've screwed the board in here and discovered that the 7-segment display is actually on a funny, weird angle because it's not soldered on the board straight. So I'm going to have to either desolder it and move it, or find another one or something like that. I don't know. What I might do is desolder it and move it, and if it doesn't work, well, we'll find another 7-segment and solder on the board. I think it doesn't look like a very difficult job. What I'll probably do is cast this in aluminium and then make a little, either a plastic or something frame, mill it up, or even 3D print it up. ABS frame might work. And to hold a lens in here, if anyone knows where I can get like purple like tinted glass or tinted plastic that I can cut the size, that'd be very helpful. There's a piece come with it, but it's sort of stuck in a box, and I think I'd probably do some damage cutting it out. Don't know, maybe mark it and cut it carefully with a hacksaw and get it out, but we'll see how that goes. But this will be a cast aluminium, I think, something like this. That's a revised one, and I've printed it, and it sort of fits. So we'll see how that goes. So that's another job we've been working on. Did a little template for a paint job that I'm doing downstairs. It's a quarter of an oval. So rather than print the whole thing and just print 1/4 and put a line here to line it up and a line here in a center hole. So all that you have to do is basically flip it over and move it around and draw around it. Anyway, it's another job, quick thing that I did the other night. Low angle block plane, I haven't seen Carl, so there's no actual work on that. Or Carl's low angle jack plane, compound angle jack plane, I haven't even looked at that. This one here, I sort of messed around. I can't remember whether we had a look at this or not. But this is a till unit for under the launch lathe that I want to do. I'm just playing with it, and it's sort of just to see how it works. But I'd like 2 over-center tills like this. It's a bit complicated to get right. If I do this, turn on the section view here. Give you some sort of an idea how it works. So I want something that stops here with the weight of the boards on the front, and something that tips up and sits down on here and stays shut with the weight of whatever's in here. I believe that the center pivot point's got to be right there, like the thickness of the board from that corner and the thickness from that corner. I don't know what we're going to do as far as putting bearings or something in it to make it work. But I've got some 1.6 or something perf metal there. No, it's not even, it's 0.8 perf metal with about 2 mil holes in it. It's quite nice, maybe 3 mil holes. And to make these here in sort of a retro industrial style, make these boxes and put a timber front on them, I think, and make this a dovetailed timber box. And then put that under the lathe, and we can put basically chucks in here and things, and in the bottom one we can put other chucks and things, and have it so that we can just pull it out and pull stuff out and push it back in. So that's that's a job that we're sort of thinking about at the moment, without a lot of, like, not a lot of momentum on it, but it might work. Just playing with that. This has all been melded up with a sheet metal, and mostly just to see if I could actually get the pieces I want out of the piece of metal I've got. Maybe I can't, but we'll have a look at that. Let's get back on now. It's sort of got that over it. Let's have a look at this. Last week we had some stuff ups with this. Wasn't a lot of people watching probably, so it didn't matter. There's a bit of a crowd here tonight, but this is what we're working on. It's very nice. Looking at the detail on that, we had problems with this, and it bogged us down because I put this grid on here, and then I didn't click add. I clicked extra, and there was over 1,000 pieces here in this drawing, and that kind of slowed everything down a bit. But I fixed that. So let's have a look at that. This is what all the sketches are on. I don't know why. Maybe. And all the planes, if we press P, we get rid of the planes. If that's a good thing or not, I don't know. But looking at this, our last job was to put this keyhole in and this textured pattern. It's looking quite nice. It's here. So we've cut a hole in here. I've just used a sketch which looks something like this. If we turn that on and we turn that off, that's what our sketch looks like on the surface there. And I've extruded it, right? Which gives us basically the shape around the front. Now, there's a cutout in the back here, which is this shape, if we have a look. It's all the way back across. From the centre, it's about 15 millimetres forward, and it's about probably 24 millimetres wide. And it's got a bit of a bevel around it. So I think if we just draw a sketch right on here, and it's very difficult to read. So what I'm going to do, before I start that, I'm going to click that, right click that, and add edit appearance. So instead of having a black, we're going to turn it into a comfortable grey that's a bit easier to read or look at. And then we're going to put a sketch on this face. So face of fill 3, which is this bottom face. If we click bottom on here, that orientates everything. What we need to do, I'm going to use a center point rectangle right on that center there. And it's 30 mil that way, because it's double the distance from there to there, which is exactly where it needs to be. And the other way, it's about 24. If we use the project tool and project that line on here as well, and then the extend tool, which is the X, or we can click on it there, we can drag this around so it lines up with there, and this one too. And then the M tool, which is the trim, we can cut these out. And that gives us our basic shape. So if we if we extrude that, click remove, puts a big hole in everything. But it only wants to be, what does it want to be? Call it 3.5 millimeters. And it wants some draft on it. Other way. Maybe 12 degrees by the look of that. But we've got a bit of a problem because it hasn't put this draft in this part here, because it starts from this surface and this one's parallel. So what we really want to do is start from that surface. So if we change the direction so that that comes out, then we kick a starting offset of 3.5. And then change the angle of the draft again, back where it should be. I'm going to call this 5 mil so we know that we're clearing everything up. There we go, and click that. Well, sort of exactly what we want. Almost. Very, very close as far as that goes. I think probably it's a little bit wide in the bottom here. So we're going to adjust the drawing here to match that. What we're going to do is change this dimension. Let's change it to 22. Click OK. Still haven't got it. Sketch 16, edit. No, I did change it to 22, but it's not enough. 20. Click that and see what we got. And not quite. Somewhere in between. Let's try 21. See how that looks. Let's look at that. Not really liking that very much. We're all over the place here. Too much of a square corner in there. It's a problem. This radius here needs to be a bit different. Let's go back and change that sketch again. Because of where this is before the extrude, what we can use, I think I'm going to use the use project tool for that line and that line. And we're going to change this to we have to cancel out that before we change that. something like that. And then we can trim these corners out. Now see how that looks? That gives us a much nicer shape. Looks like we've got that one, have we? See what that does. That's a better shape. And that gives us a better angle there too. It doesn't quite give us enough draft. I don't like that much from there. Let's see if we can change the draft a bit. Let's go 16 degrees. I'd like to see this back to that point. Maybe. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's this diameter here that needs some work. So let's go back to this sketch that we here. And change this radius. Try that. See if that fixes it. It might. Maybe. See what happens here. Yeah, that completely stuffed that. Look at the top view here, nice and square on, and we'll have a look at this one. This didn't work, so let's go back here to 1 millimeter and see why it didn't work. Oh. Maybe there's not enough draft on this cutout here. Maybe that's what it is. Which is this one. No, it's not that one. It's that one. So what that does is cut that out. If we put some draft on that, like so, and then click that, it's very nearly fixed it. Very nearly fixed it. Try again. Still a tiny little bit there that's going to drive me crazy. Let's have a look here. The bottom view. Here we go. Cut this one. And this one, which is there for some reason. those 2 points that are there for some reason. What I'm going to do is offset this line, 0.5, like so, and the same for this one. It won't do that. And click that. Come on, edit the sketch. If we offset this one too, we can mirror it, but we haven't got a center line. We'll scroll that in and then move my mouse over there and scroll it back. And change the direction of that. We go 0.5 millimeters. And for some reason that's done that again. Everything blows up. Sorry guys. Now this little line here is not quite right here. I'd like to see this come across to here. Let's put a spline on there. Oh, that's really where we want to be, but let's drag this spline around. It's got an awful shape to it here. That looks better. And then we're going to have to mirror this, aren't we? There's no other way about it. So if we put a line there and press Q for a construction line, we can do that easy. We put that in there and press escape. We've got a mirror line. And we click on that for a mirror line, it turns yellow. And we can mirror that one. And then we can chop this one off here. This one off here. Click OK. And theoretically, we fixed it. Look at that. Look at us go. Nice. Nice shape there. Everything looks fantastic. I feel like that could do with a nice fillet through there. Probably something like that. However that works, that's pretty neat. Pretty happy with that. Now, there's a little ridge in here that this piece actually ramps on. Have a look at the front side here on there. And if we section that, so if we were a section view, the section plane there, right, that's given us a section in half of that, roughly. Now in here, there's a little triangle. So what we want is a sketch. And we've turned off all our planes. So let's turn the front one on. Right, we'll just zoom out that and you can see the front planes on. Having a look at this. It's very difficult to tell without taking the piece out. Let's take glasses off to do so. It's a round ramp in here, right on the centre, about 1.6 millimetres high. And probably I'm just going with that because it's sort of a 1/16 of an inch. Have a look at this. We'll move this over here, which is probably going to annoy the crap out of everyone. Probably about 4 millimetres high, wide. So a new sketch on this plane, on the front lane, which should be right on the centre of this piece, if we've done our things right. Centre point arc. That's not going to work. So let's use this line here for a start, which is across the hole. And that gives us it should give us a restraint. That means we can do this. So that'll give us the centre of that hole. Let's go 1.6 radius, something like that. Doesn't seem enough. Still doesn't seem enough. Let's go 2 mil. Try that. And we're going to extrude that. We haven't got a complete sketch, so you can't do that. We'll go back here and edit this. And draw a line across the top here. Now we've got a complete sketch, and we can extrude that. Like so, we want to come just across here so it touches this, so it goes past this line. Let's go about 11 millimetres, should be about right. Beautiful. And we want to come back this way with this second end position. Something like that. Is it 4 millimetres? No. Oh, let's have a look. Three millimetres. Let's go 2 millimetres. Now, if we put make that as a new part, not attached, see, just like that. When we close this section view, turn off section view, right? We can then, if we turn the right plane on, nope, don't need the right plane on. It's this one here that we're going to mirror it on. We can click mirror. We can click add, and entities to mirror is that one. The mirror plane is that one. We'll put a new one in there. And that's added it all in how it should be. I feel like this sharp corner here doesn't really look good. It wants to be a bit of an angle on here. There's a couple of ways we can do this. If we do turn now the right plane on, it's way back here. But we can put a sketch on the right plane. If we go from turn the section view back on, cancel that. We can just turn that around and drag this back out here so that we can actually see where we're at. And that gives us, whoops. We'll do that again. Something like that. That gives us a section across there, which is a bit cool. And what we need to do is get rid of these. So let's put a sketch on here. I don't know if this is the easy way to do it, but it's the way I'm going to do it. We're going to go project or use. Like so, use that line across there. We're going to draw another line from, we're going to use that one too. Since we can't use that, it has put it in there. So if we draw a line here, something like this, from there to there, and then from there to the center line there, and we mirror that, which is a pretty useful little tool. Just use the mirror line, that one, and that one, and we can extract that. We can extrude that. Of course, it spins it back the other way, so we're going to have to reverse it. And there we go. We can close that section line and have a bit of a look at it. There's that. Now this has got a bit of a ramp on it, so I'm going to put a fillet around this, I think. Probably just a 1 millimeter fillet around this one. Like so. And the same on this one. There we go. That looks pretty good to me. I think it could all do with a bit of a clean-up. We've got a little shelf there I don't like very much, but we're going to live with that. We're looking at that there, see? Looking at it, it's probably draft angle. If we click on that, it'll show us the extrusion. And the problem is that it lines up nicely on there. Yeah, think about that. We have this function here, which is draft or body draft. And the neutral plane's that one, and our entities to draft are this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. I think that's the answer. What I'm going to try this. Let's try this. Is move face. Let's see if we can move this face and this face. too much. .2 of a millimetre. Do the same with this one and this one. We'll do one at a time. But let's try 0.2 of a millimetre. And that's cleaned that up beautifully. And let's do the same with this one. And it's not going to like doing the other side, is it? It's not ideal because it's put that slot up there. I think we're just going to ignore that. The death monkeys. So there we go. I think that's pretty well got that feature. It's got some writing on here. I'm not feeling like it's something I want to do tonight. We might come back to it at some point, but I don't think that's something we really want to get sucked into. What there is a little pin in here. Basically, it's a loose pin. If we use the measure function and measure that hole, we're in inches because we've been working in that, but it's 3 millimeters. Looking at that, I reckon it's about 7 millimeters long, something like that, a little pin. The other job we can do is we've got to put a bit of a shape in here. Peter pointed this out last week. Got a bit of a hollow in here. It's not much. Seriously, 1.2 mil, 1 millimeter probably. So if we put a sketch on here, that's pretty straightforward. Draw a line through there like that and a dimension on it from there to there. And we go 1.2, like so. And line again. It's about 3 millimeters back there to there, something like that. Ugly. We can just grab hold of this dot here and drag this down a bit. I'm just going to Control Z until we've got that missing, that spline. We'll try again. what we can do is try with, say, a 3-point arc, which gives us this dimension here. We're going to guess that, and this dimension here. We're going to put in a reasonably nice tangent arc there. About that diameter. And I think 1 millimetre, 1.2 is too much. Let's go back to 1 mil here. And drag this out here, something like that. That looks better. All we've got to do is make a box out of that. We don't even have to go right up to we do need to extend that out. Extend that line to there. That makes a box out of that. And it's just a matter of extruding that out of it or removing it. We go symmetrical, so we don't have to put two measurements in. We'll go 70, so we've got plenty of overlap. And click that. There we go. Looking good. Having said this, most of this is messed up now. It doesn't look too bad, I think. This diameter here is wrong. Sketch 18. Read that. No, it's not sketch 18. Sketch 16. Sketch 17. Let's edit that. Okay, that'll do us. Anyway, there's that part. Looking pretty good, except for the writing on it. Oh, don't stress too much about them. They're probably not really that keen. It's awesome that you have actually turned up, but I'm not really not taking attendance. Anyway, that looks pretty neat and tidy and good. Pretty happy with that. We're going to make a new part here. Create a part studio. Come along here, call part studio 1. We're going to call this a cap pin. It's a fairly simple thing. There's two ways we can do it, of course. Probably on the top plane. No, on the front plane. An easy way probably to do that is just put a sketch. Come out here, 1.5. And up here, 6 millimeters. And out here, 1 millimeter. Up here, 0.5, something like that. We zoom in so you can actually see that. And across to there and down to there. And then we can revolve it. Face of sketch 1, revolve axis like that. We've got a pin. We can change the colour of that. Edit appearance. Dark grey like so. There's our pin. If we go back to our assembly, no, we go back to our cap. Well, we go back to our assembly. and insert this cap pin. We're going to drop it in there somewhere. And that needs to be a cylindrical mate, which is that one, which means it moves both ways. And that goes in there. We can pick that up and move it that way, and we can turn it. Ideally, we don't want it to come out and get lost, so we need to put some limits on it. If we go down here and have a look at our cylindrical mate, which is that one. Oh, come on, do the thing. And edit it. Put some limits on it. If we do that, put 0 on the z-axis limit. We can't go below that, see? There it is in there. We can go up there, but we can't go. We don't really want to go below there, I don't think. I think that's where it wants to sit. So what's that's about 3 millimeters. Have another look at that. Edit that. And put 3 millimeters there. We can grab that. We can move it up to there. Is that too much? Yeah. Can try again. Edit that, mate. Put 2.5. 2.5. There we go. It sticks out about right. 2.2 might do. It looks like about where it should be. A bit loose there. So that's the pin in. We could go back here and we could change the colour of this again since we finished it. Edit appearance. We'll be going with black. I think we were, weren't we? Or we're going with dark charcoal. Maybe we're going with a dark charcoal colour. It's easier to see. Yeah, that's more like. There's our steel pin in there. Maybe it makes it a little bit easier to see. There we go, loose pin. With limits on it. So last piece, one last piece, and I think we're done. And that's the little handly thing that goes under here. So we're in another part studio here, another piece. We're going to call this cap lever. Leave the fun bits to last, guys. But this is about 16 millimeters diameter. Let's have a look at it. On the top here, let's sketch this in. Put a circle in here. 16 millimeters diameter. We'll zoom that out so we can actually see it. There's a funny piece chopped off the side here, so I'm going to put another circle here, something like this. It's not like that though. Something like that, and then chop this out. We go M for trim tool, chop that one off, chop that one off. And that's sort of the shape of it. There's a 3mm hole in the middle of it. And that piece in particular is extruded about, well, we got 3mm thick. Go the other way, maybe. That's what that looks like. Now there's a recess in the top of this, so we'll put a sketch in here. We do that now, we'll know exactly which way up it is. Go 5.5. And we'll extrude that. That's what the pin sits in. So there we go. That's the bottom of it there. It's on a bit of an angle across there. We'll call that 30 degrees. So at 30 degrees on the top here, there's an indent that works on that little ramp. This is, of course, is upside down. Why did we do that? Easy fixed. And edit sketch 2. Instead of being on that face, we're going to put it on this face. And that puts it up the other way. And that makes that the bottom. So it wants a line across here at about 30 degrees that way. On sketch 1, right there. No, we haven't. We might have to put a sketch in there. There we go, that's the right way up. Now, if we put a sketch on this front plane, like so, press Q, draw a construction line, draw a line up here, press escape because it doesn't need a dimension. And then we put a plane in there using that line, or this one here, the plane tool. Rather than offset, we're going to make it a line angle plane. And we're going to make it 30 degrees. Something like that. Is that right? It's 120, I think, roughly. Except it's not, because we want the cross section rather than the direction. It is only 30. We had it right the first time. 30 degrees. If we put a sketch on that plane, then press N for normal, that'll bring that plane around parallel to the front. And we can put basically something that looks something like this. We'll mirror that line on that one, like so. And we put a like that. We move this down to about there. Draw it across there to enclose it and extrude it. So we're going to go symmetrically, so it goes right across. We're going to go remove. What we found is a little bit deep. We've gone a bit deep. So sketch 4, we're going to edit that. That's pretty close. And that's sort of what it looks like from the top. Now there's a lever out here. Which is a bit fancy, really. It's got some draft on it. It's the best way to do that. Goes out this side, so we're in the right plane here. Let's just freehand sketch that in a bit. On that sketch plane. Oh, stupid thing. On the right plane, we want to click the project button and get that line there, I think. And then a line from that point. We can click. I'm getting close having this done, which is sort of nice. So this comes up here at about what looks like about that angle. We're going to have to try this in place and see if it fits, because I'm not going to put a lot of effort into measuring it up. Something like this. Put a round piece on the end here, which isn't that sort of shape. This one here comes up here like so. Something like that. And then across here. Now, we're going to go 3-point arc from there, across there somewhere, and stress that out, just to get our shape, something like that, and trim that, because it's a bit ugly. But I reckon it looks something like that. Maybe. Don't know. Let's extrude it symmetrically on that shape. We can't add it in yet. The sketch isn't right. I reckon it's about 3mm thick. Something like that. So if we go back to sketch 5, right plane, zoom this in so we can actually see it, and we put a little tag in there so that wrong one. We'll put this back. Looking at this, we want to put a fillet in this corner here to tidy that up because that looks a bit ugly. And probably there too. And probably here. Something like that. Then we can go change our extrude. We can just add them together with a boolean, but we can just change that and click add. And it should add it in there like that. Didn't put a fill in this corner. We'll do that. And I reckon it's got one on this corner too. Oops. Is that right? Looks pretty good. So that's that part. Probably needs some cleaning up, but we need to see if it fits. So we'll come back to our assembly, and we probably should have a sub-assembly for this, but anyway. We're going to try and assemble it like this. It's that piece. And same deal, cylindrical mate, probably on there. And on there. How much interference and stuff we've got. We're going to close that for now. We're going to hide some of these parts. zoom out there so we can see what we're actually doing. Remember to turn them all back on again. But let's have a look at this. Need to put some limits on this. And we also need to turn this round so that it's around here. And realise that that interferes with that like crazy. Because it's not even any close to that shape. So we're probably going to mess with that first. We'll come back here to the cap lever. And sketch file, I think. Let's transform that sketch. It's under there, transform. Click right. So it labels it all up. And select all that. Drag this out here. At least that far. Drag this one so that it works. And this one back here too, without putting too many measurements or anything on it. We're only going for an artistic look here. That'll do. Probably put a fillet in there, and one on there. Try again. That might have fixed it. This fillet didn't work, so we'll edit that. And see why it didn't work. That doesn't quite work. We'll delete that and start again with it. We'll go back to sketch 5 and start again with that. It won't let us drag that in because it's locked on the corner there. So let's delete that. Another line down here. Fix that. Then we can put a fillet in the corner. Beautiful. We'll try again. Still not quite enough. Still touching there. A little bit more. Come back here to sketch 5 again. And the same again. We'll just select all of it. Go ahead another millimetre. I reckon we can just drag that back there now. And that should all work. And we can try again. That clears there nicely. It does stick up a bit ugly there. It doesn't want to stick up ugly, so we're going to modify that a bit. We've got a reckon we can just sort of pull this. Somewhere in there like that. I don't know. We can tidy it up, but let's see how that looks. Still wants to come down another, quite a bit more. Oh, that's ugly. Let's try again. We got, that might be better. That might be better. We're only guessing. But that seems to work. Still way too high. But what needs to happen is that when this turns, it needs to work on that ramp. So if we go back to this cap lever and we put a radius on here, I think we'll put a fillet on here. Probably here. So it's that shape. And we come back to this. I'm just thinking out loud here. But we need to a tangent made, I think. Face, edge, or vertex. No. I don't know how we're going to go with that. Making that up. That's going to be a bit of a challenge. What we can do is change the constraint on this one, I think. So this last cylindrical we're going to delete. We'll just modify it, but it's easier to change that to a revolute. We're going to connect that one with that one. And that way the two pieces kind of all work and the constraints work. If we have a look at this and put a section on here so everyone can see what we're doing. Right. We need that to follow that shape. there to follow this ramp, and that's not going to happen particularly easy. Our cylindrical motor needs to be edited a bit to wrong way. Let's edit the other end as well. Is he going to like that? Don't know. No, it's got no movement. Must be getting late. It's 9 o'clock. Maybe that's the answer. It's very close. I think we're going to call that done. We'll modify this a bit and tidy it up. It's an ugly looking piece. Put a 1mm radius all the way around here. Something like that, and down here. It's not going to like that much. So we constrain. I think that fillet's too much. Try 0.6. That's better. That looks tidier. We'll change the colour of this. We'll edit the appearance to nice dark grey. Match that and put this assembly. And that's how that should sort of fit together. If we turn the section view off, that looks pretty good. What happens is that when you move this lever, right, it pushes down, is the theory. Getting that to work is going to be a bit of a headache, but it should sort of work. That's all the bits for that. Let's turn some of these bits on and go. It's right from the start. We're going to turn the rest off. We've got a blank canvas in our here. We're showing a anyway, let's have a look here. We'll turn this one on first. All right. Get this the right way around. There we go. Let's throw it on. So there we go. That's basically our base. There's a fair bit of work in that. There's a few little things that aren't quite right. Like we've got this funny little cutout here. Why do we have that cutout there? I know why that is. We might go ahead and fix that. Sketch 10. Go back to there with that. And let's fix that. So we'll go back to our assembly. Wait for it to load. Why didn't that fix that? Let's fix that one. So something hasn't reloaded. It's this button here. Let's reload that. There we go. That's all it needed. I will spend a week catting it up. I'm sorry. So that's the first part. There's something else we haven't done here. This is actually bright metal on here, so I'm going to change the appearance of that. Add appearance to face, we'll change that to grey. So I don't know if it's even noticeable, but anyway, that's why we were thinking of that. So next bit we put in is a stud in the back there. Right? We've done that. And there's a wheel on that, of course. And the mouth goes in, which is this piece. And the front adjuster nut. And the front lock nut. If we move this in and out, this all works. See? This one goes in there. It wasn't the order we made it, but we put this piece in here, which actually works on this nut. Theoretically, it should work on this nut. Not sure we actually got it working on this nut, but we could play with that and get it right. I'd have to put another night in on this sometime. So that's that. we can drop our blade in then, which should work up and down with that. So that's another bit of animation sorting out. We can't put the blade in for yet because we have put a pivot pin in that, which is in place now. Need to put that knob in. We need to put that little roller in place there that works in there. And then we can put the blade in, like so. So we've just dropped something. And then there's a cap iron screw that goes in there like that, holds it all in place. We never renamed that, but there's the cap. And the bits we've got is the pin and the adjustment lever. So there we go. Well, I've done a few things off camera, really. Move this standard down to where you can actually read it. We haven't put the numbers on there, and maybe I'll do that at some point just to say, hey, I've done that. But basically, it's complete. The animation isn't quite complete. If you adjust that nut up and top, it doesn't move the blade in and out, and it probably should. And the coaxial adjustment sort of works, I think. The coaxial adjustment does work. There's no limits on it yet, but that does work. And now probably animating this from start to finish now, all the bits are finished is probably all it needs. But anyway, the only real animation we want to do is to get this ramp working on here so it tightens down, and to get this knob moving the blade in and out, which we haven't done. But apart from that, this one works. And the axle works on the blade. So pretty happy with that. Thanks for following on, guys. It's been a bit of an epic sort of a project. Certainly a crap load of work in it. Thanks heaps for following along. I'm going to give it a break for a couple of weeks and I might come back to it. And we'll animate it properly, make everything work. But it's pretty much complete, so we've done that. You've listened to me rabbit on for 2 hours nearly, which is probably way past my bedtime and way enough for anyone. But I'm really pleased with that. I was going to get on and do a little bit on the donation box lathe, but that can wait too. We might have a look at that next week. That was a bit epic. It's one of the more complicated things I've ever catted up because it's got to be so close to the prototype. Pretty happy with that. All good things come to an end. That was a bit much, really. I wasn't expecting, what's it been, 2 months? To sort that out, and we still haven't quite got it right. But we've got most of the bits in, and we've got some nice pieces. Like, there's a fair bit of work in some of these bits. That cap iron I was putting off. This actually works, and I think it could be made to tighten down nicely. If you wrote a feature strip for the animation so that you could actually work the two. It was riveted. Thanks, thanks, Peter. I appreciate that. Anyway, that's done. I'd hate to build one from scratch. A set of castings, and I don't think it'd be as big a job. But we've got a much bigger understanding of a lot of things there now. It's kind of like that. Like, it sort of makes me wish I had a paid subscription to Onshape so we can mess with some fancy rendering. I don't think that there's a rendering. We've got to render this Render Studio. We can do this sort of rendering on it. Rendering is pretty strong if you pay for a subscription. I don't think I want to message him about it. But it's probably way above my pay grade. But that gives us cam work and Render Studio and private documents if you don't want to share your stuff. Automated part numbering. Intellectual property control. All that stuff. So, and also finite element analysis, stuff like that. I'm not about to sign up, but there we go. As far as the visuals on the basic package, it's really not terrible. And it's a nice looking build. So I'm done with that. Bedtime for me. Thanks, guys, for sitting here through all that. It was a bit epic, to be honest. It's sort of... It was one of those things that was nice, and maybe it was one of those things that I probably wouldn't jump into again. We'll do something different next time. But there's certainly a lot of hours in that particular build, and it was a challenge. How much? I think it's about $100 a month, something like that. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I guess we could probably Google it and find out. Let's go and have a look at this instead. Free plan. Standard plan's $1,500. And all that gives is private storage and direct in product support. $2,500 a year is $200 a month, something like that. Is that right? Fair bit of money. It's more than that. It's $210 or something a month. Rendering and simulation, MCAD exchange and CAM. And there's another one that we don't want to know about. But we can try that for free, absolutely, for 6 months. And then someone's going to want to get 100, 200 bucks a month out of us. At this point, I'm not going to do that. But there we go. It was a bit War and Peace epic. Yeah, right. It's a big, for a very small component, or a lot of very small components. It was a bit of a job. I could put all this back together now. There we go. One of those. So anyway, I'm out, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you tomorrow night for some actual real work and actual like made stuff rather than just messed around on the computer stuff. And we'll see how we go. I'm going to bed. I've got an early morning in the morning and I've got a day back at work. I think we're on pick handles and I'm really not looking forward to that, but we'll get on and do them. And I'll be all right in the morning. So take care, guys. Be kind to each other. And we'll catch you soon. Thanks for sticking with us, Peter, and whoever else is there. James, I imagine, or Scooty.